worried about cold butt. That's to bring the heated.
Oh, look at that reaction. Look at that. What do you say? What do you know? It's the Full Monty Sports Show. It is Monday, November 28th, 2022. I am your host, Monty Perez, a.k.a. The Sports Whisperer. We had Joe Cardozo, the owner-operator of Nuts and Bolts Sports, on yesterday. We had 34 states tune in across the country. We had people tune in from Canada, from Mexico, and my one friend was actually watching today from France. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. We are now Team NBS Media. So thank you all for participating today, watching the show. Keep the comments coming. You can follow me on social media on Twitter, MontyJP231, and on TikTok, Monty Perez231. I will be having a article out. They're probably posting it as we speak right now on the Green Bay Packers and what I think they should do with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love moving forward. Before we get Brad Ward on, I just want to talk about the breaking news of the day. So the Dallas Mavericks went out and acquired Kemba Walker to help Luka Doncic. I don't know how this is going to help them. The problem with the Mavericks is I believe some of their players took the offseason off. Tim Hardaway Jr. is shooting, I think, 38% from three. Finney Smith is shooting under 35%. The only guy who's really shooting well from three is Dinwiddie and also Woods, who they acquired from Houston, but he's only playing 24 minutes a game. I don't know what the end result is going to be here. Luka has got to put up 35, 9, and 9 every game. And I don't know how long he's going to be patient when he plays teams like Portland, Memphis, even the Lakers, who are struggling, have 2 or 3 stars. It's basically Luka. Will Kemba Walker help? I guess. But if you're relying on this guy who's a career 36% three-point shooter to come in and help your shooting woes, I don't know. I like the move for this aspect. It takes pressure off Luka to bring up the ball. When they're both playing together, Luka can kind of post up and play off the ball and be the two guard. But I don't really see, how this makes the Dallas Mavericks better. They have looked horrible after coming off the Western Conference Finals. They've looked horrible. They look like they're hungover. Or they look like they're uninspired. And quite honestly, I don't really believe this helps them long term. Kemba Walker is not the player he was when he was with Charlotte. He's not the player he was, the last few years. The Knicks can't kind of rat him out of the league, thanks to Tom Thibodeau, who, really not a great coach, but that's neither here nor there. So, do I like the move overall? I would say yes, I like it, but this is not going to turn their season around. What's going to turn their season around is getting Tim Hardaway Jr. to hit his three open 3-pointers. What's going to get the season to turn around is Finney Smith hitting open shots and playing Christian Wood. The guy's playing 24 minutes a game. He came out and said last week, I am disappointed in my minutes. I want to play more. And when the guy plays, he's 16 and 10. Yeah, Tom Thibodeau. I don't know the disconnect. And this is another thing. Going with the Knicks here. Uh, if you have your general manager comes in and he brings players like Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, and then you don't play them, well, you're basically the head coach is basically telling the general manager and president of basketball operations, look, we don't want this guy. So again, the disconnect, the dysfunction between the Knicks is we could talk about that all day. But again, Kemba Walker should help short term, but my point is the Dallas Mavericks have bigger problems. They have bigger problems. They've become a one-man show. They rely on Luka for everything, everything, and it's unfair to ask a player. I used to say this about the Atlanta Hawks when they made their run to the Eastern Conference Finals. Trae Young had to be the best player on the court 4 out of 7 times, right? 4 out of 7 times, because that's what the series was. And when he got hurt against Milwaukee, he couldn't. Milwaukee has Giannis. They got Chris Middleton. They have Drew Holiday. I mean, you're asking for Luka to be the best player on the court every night. It's kind of like what LeBron went through in Cleveland, right? It's kind of like what LeBron went through in Cleveland. LeBron in Cleveland had to be the best player. And you watch Luka, we watch Luka. I mean, I have the NBA League Pass, so I watch Luka all the time. And he's way better than LeBron was early on in his career. Way better than LeBron was. But I just don't know if this is the answer for them. I really don't. I don't know if this is the answer for them. So for me, watching the Mavericks play from afar, they got to really do something different because the team that they brought back is not the team that that's going to make a deep run. Let's put it that way. Let's put it that way. I'm not a Maverick hater. I don't want people to say that I am. I think that what they did last year was a great run. You learn how to win a playoff series like Luka has after losing to the Clippers all those years. So I liked the Dallas Mavericks run last year. I like watching new teams come into play. I like watching new teams come into play. So when I see Dallas, when I see Memphis, when I see Atlanta, Minnesota last year, teams who are, by the way, speaking of Minnesota, Patrick Beverley statistically right now, I know he's suspended, he's not playing. He's like ranked, I think, second to last for the amount of minutes that he plays. Patrick Beverley is terrible. I mean, the Lakers just seem to be trading away pieces and getting guys like Patrick Beverley who come there and they got nothing left in the tank. Nothing left in the tank. All right. So when we come back, Brad Ward is going to join us and we're going to talk about what a crazy week, week 12. We had some overtime games. We've had some upsets. You're watching the Full Monty Sports Show. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I'm getting people saying that the chat room's not working. Just keep trying. We'll try to get you there. We'll be back right after this.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build a cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. Hashtag built for the wild.
All right, let's bring him on. He's the contributor for the OBR, obviously a host and producer of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad Ward, how are you? Happy Monday.
I'm excellent. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic. I'm sorry I had some technical difficulties on my end. I apologize to all.
That's no problem, Brad. Always glad to have you on. How was your Thanksgiving? I know you were going to, you said your dad's, you saw your brother. Everything work out okay?
Everything was great. Great to see family. Spend some time with my niece, who I don't get to see often enough. And it was great. It was great. Good for the whole family.
All right.
Hi, Andrea.
That's good to hear. We're having some problems with the chat room, so people are texting me. So if they have any questions, I will definitely.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a YouTube issue. All right, Brad. So you got to be happy. You got to be loving life. I posted this picture because it just, I mean, look at that picture of Tom Brady. It just looks like God. I give up. I packed it in. A tremendous win. I don't care how you do it. Anytime you're shorthanded like the Browns were, and all the controversy about Deshaun Watson going to start now. This team wins in overtime. You had to be ecstatic to beat Tom Brady.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. I just wanted them to win to at least give them a mathematical illusion of being I know it's not realistic. What a catch. I mean, what a freaking catch by Njoku. I talked a lot about and have wrote a lot about the Browns not making winning plays, Monty. And they just, we talked about it last week too. They just don't make winning plays very often. That play is an individual effort where one guy goes up and just makes a play to win you a game or keep tie the game in that circumstance, but ultimately win you the game. And that's what they've been missing, right? They've been in these games. They've been in a bunch of close games. They've lost a bunch of them. Individual effort like that from Njoku, who talked a lot this week before the game about not being out of it. Although Monty, we know they don't have a chance to make the playoffs.
Right.
But the illusion that they are mathematically there and that Watson could come and they could run the table because the schedule does lighten up. But that illusion at least brings some more value to his games as he returns, in my opinion. So
yeah.
I think that was good. They played well on defense. Finally, for the first time in a long time. What a catch by Njoku, and then Cooper in overtime with the great play getting down.
People
to
were
the
killing
1
him because he dropped that 4th down catch, right? I mean, he couldn't have been more wide open.
And he never drops the ball.
Yeah.
Never. And that one was brutal, right? Like, that was a huge play in the game, and he dropped it. And so he totally redeems himself in overtime. Good feelings all around. Really happy for Jacoby Brissett. Really, what a class act.
Yep.
What a nice man, a great leader in the locker room, just a good person all around. And on a team that's not so easy to root for, he's an easy guy to root for. Like, he is a quality individual, and really awesome to find. He deserved better than 4-7, Monty. He played better than 4-7.
He did, and I will say this, Brad. One of the things that when I watch a game and you think a team has no shot of winning, like, for example, I was watching the Oregon State game. Excuse me one sec. I was watching the Oregon State game. Oregon was up by 28 points, and the fans, Oregon State came back and won. Were you like, we're going to lose this game? Were you ever confident, or it wasn't until the last play that you were confident?
I was not confident at all until, I mean, that was a 4th down to Njoku in the back of the end zone. So, when they got backed up, I was like, okay, they got a chance to tie it up, and they got backed up when they got down there, and I'm like, they're in trouble now, because I think it was like 4th and 15. I think they could have got a first down at like the 2 or something, and he put it the only place that you could put it where Njoku could go get it like that. Remarkable pass, remarkable individual catch in the back of the end zone. He's a stud, man. A lot of people, Browns got a hard time forgiving him the size of the contract they gave him, Monty, in the offseason. He has totally lived up to it.
Yeah, they brought in, what was it, Hopper, like 2 years ago from Atlanta?
Hooper, yep.
Hooper, yeah, and that didn't really work out. I remember, didn't Njoku say he wanted to get traded once they brought him in? Wasn't that something that he brought up?
It was after he was in for a while, and just Njoku was not getting the ball, and people were like, this guy's a freak, right? Like, getting the ball, and he was a first-round pick, so he wanted to be traded, but ultimately they were able to smooth it over and then give him an extension, and all good. So
yeah, Brad, my friend Bill asked, he says that we know that Jacoby Brissett's a professional. He goes, Deshaun Watson is, say what you want about him off the field, on the field, in the locker room, in the huddle. He's a professional. What's going to be the major transition, if anything, offensively, now that they're in the playoff hunt? Remember, you said they might not show them too much, but now, since you're mathematically in it, all hands on deck, right? I mean, anything. I mean, you could do so much more with Deshaun Watson schematic-wise than you can with the Jacoby Brissett.
Yes, he opens up all sorts of the corners of the playbook that haven't even been dusted off, right? So, and I think eventually we will see, like next year, we will see a totally different approach, probably from week 1 on, right? Like the whole season, the offense is going to have like some core things that are different, right? I don't think they're going to change anything core about the offense. It's too late to do that this year, but what I think you will see is I think they'll take it game by game. So you've got Houston, right, this week in Houston. Houston's bad. You should be able to run the ball and ease Watson back in, right? Like, he's going to have to knock some rust off. He's not going to come out looking great, right? So you're going to have to ease him in. So Houston actually ends up being the ideal kind of game where you can lean on the run game, pick your spots with Watson, ideally have him throw it like, 20, 25 times, nothing more, right? And ease him back into his like form, right? Into form. Playing condition, actual live playing condition is different than just conditioning on the side. And certainly that, taking a hit, guys always say that, take a big hit and you feel like you're back in it. All those little steps that need to get knocked out that guys do in the preseason has to happen in this game. So I think you won't see much different right away in this one. But if they can win this one, which they should, and that would get them 2 in a row, and then you're going to get some division games, I think at that point, Stefanski, you'll start to see at least little bits of what they eventually want to make their whole offense with him that game.
Yeah, good points all around. Nice win for you. Okay, we're going to move to you were talking about Houston. They're terrible. The Miami Dolphins on the Full Monty Sports Show on Sunday. I said this is going to be a glorified scrimmage. It was. They were up 30 to nothing at halftime. It wound up being 30 to 15. But I want to play this clip because this is not a shot at Brian Flores. This is not a shot at Nick Saban. But just listen to what Tua has to say about his head coach.
Winning.
Tua, as you look to this stretch drive, so much is leadership and playing together. Yesterday, Mike McDaniel said you are the reason he got into coaching. Can you please share just a little bit what it's like to play with him?
Well, having someone that first off believes in you makes all the difference. Having someone that calls me randomly, just telling me how much I mean to him and the things that he's trying to accomplish and we're trying to accomplish as a team.
It froze up a little bit there, but basically what he was saying is, I've never been part of an organization where a coach has believed in me and tells me all the time. And I say this all the time, Brad, in your job, in people who are married, people think that people cheat for sex or for money, or people cheat because they don't feel appreciated. That's why they do it. Tua right now is basically saying, this guy calls me all the time in the middle of the day saying, hey, we appreciate you. I love what you're doing. They play the 49ers this week, and that defense is like as similar to an imposing defense that we've seen over the last few years. So they're going to be tested. But this team is really fun to watch on offense. It's a great story. And just to see Tua gleam about his head coach and say, I've never had this before, is really an indictment on Brian Flores, Nick Saban, whoever you want. The Dolphins are thriving, and it's kind of good that they played Houston coming off a bye, because Tua said, he made a good point. He said, we're all, everything we do is based on timing. So having the bye week was not good for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what's interesting about that clip is, I don't know if you've seen the clip, Monty, of where they show Flores walking around on the field when he was the head coach, talking to Tua, and then they show the difference with McDaniel and the conversations they're having, and the sound, like they're both mic'd up, and it's like night and day. Flores is like, all right, come on, guy, slaps him on the back. It's just random. And then McDaniel's like, talking to him about,
like
everything under the sun.
A human being.
Yeah, calling him bro. And they're like, what do you like here? Okay, you like that to the right side. You like it, oh, we can flip it. Oh, that's a good idea. I like that too. I like it if you like it. He's like, but, that kind of relationship is incredible for a quarterback, right? And look at what it's done for him. It's just clearly opened up his game. McDaniel is a different cat, but certainly his players like him a lot, and he seems to be doing it the right way.
One of the things that we've seen over the last few years is these offensive-minded coaches have success. When you have a defensive-minded coach, not all of them, but a Bill Belichick, a Mike Vrabel, it's almost like they lead by fear, and it works. It works. But I used to tell people this all the time when I used to do stand-up comedy. They're like, "I want to be a comedian." I said, "Get up on stage, do it, just do it, just do it."
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid you have to over. You cannot. The only way I got good and more successful at stand-up comedy was the fact that I did it over and over again. And when I was at my best is when I was most relaxed. And my point is, no quarterback can be successful long term if they're afraid of losing their job. Tua said in an interview this weekend that he looked in the mirror and, under his last coach, he was like, "Do I suck?" He's like, that's what he said. He goes, "Imagine you won a national championship. You're a first round pick. You're the starting quarterback." And he thought he sucked.
Yeah. I mean, when your front office and your coach is trying to make moves in the background all the time to get a different quarterback, how else are you going to feel, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You're going to feel not wanted, and I feel that way if you're constantly trying to be replaced, right?
Yeah.
And the narrative was they needed to do better at that position. So
And it turns out they just needed a better coach. All right, so I won. I think I was 10-3 yesterday, or 9-3. I got to look at it. But the one game that I got wrong, Brad. I don't know how to predict the Titans. Every time I pick them to win, they lose. Every time I pick them, I had them winning because I was all on the Mike Vrabel train. But the 7-4 Bengals beat Tennessee on the road, 20-16. Not a pretty game. But listen, give credit to the Bengals, man.
yeah, this one I did not see coming. To be honest, I agree with you. I thought the Titans would win. Kudos to the Bengals, man. On the road, tough environment. It was a gritty game. They did an excellent job with Henry, except for that one long pass, right?
Yeah.
Mike Hilton played out of control on defense. Incredible tackling and keying on Henry. They just sent guys to him all over the place. They did a really good job defensively. And, Joe Burrow, it was interesting, right? Like, they had all kinds of pressure on him and traffic in the pocket, and he would just pick his spots. He's so poised,
Smart.
right?
So smart.
So poised and smart. Like, he would just take his 5-yard completion, his 4-yard completion, and 5, 6, 4, whatever. And then all of a sudden you have a clean pocket and you have a one-on-one and he's beating you down the field, right? Like, he's patient, he's poised, he's smart. It makes him, his arm talent and his ability is usurped by his mental and football acumen. He's incredible.
Yeah, and one of the things, Joe Burrow, let's be honest, he's still a young quarterback. One of the things that young quarterbacks try to do when the game is close, especially on the road, is they try to make a big play. But I mean, great evaluation there. He just takes what the defense gives you
Yep.
time and time again. It's almost like, that's why it was so shocking when he had early interceptions this year. It's almost like, hey, you're going to give me the 5-yard pass? Okay. And the backup, former Jet running back, had a great game, but by catching balls and being available to him.
Yeah, 2 games in a row. Perrine has been fantastic. So, it's so interesting about running backs. There's a special few in the league, Monty. But really, if you have a good offensive line and a good scheme, like, running backs are fast and elusive, and you can have ones of different sizes and stuff. But really, like, there's no drop off from Perrine to Mixon, visibly, right? I'm sure there is. I'm sure Mixon is the better player. It's not a knock on Mixon. It's just to say in the NFL of why that position is devalued. You have certain guys that are really special, but after that, like, top 5, I think they're all really similar.
Well, and yesterday I lost my mind because I have Miles Sanders in, and the Eagles on the opening drive are driving down the field. All of a sudden, they take out Miles Sanders. They put in Gainwell in. He scores a touchdown. And I'm like, how can Miles Sanders be tired? Like, it's literally the first drive of the game. But to your point, unless you have a Derrick Henry or an Nick Chubb is an exception because, let's be honest, Kareem Hunt could probably start for about 20 teams at running back, right? The Jets would love to have him right now. But what I'm saying, you hit the nail on the head. Unless you have like one of these guys, look what Dallas is doing. Ezekiel Elliott was the go-to guy. Now he's pretty much the backup.
Yeah. So I don't think Monty. I don't think we'll see running backs drafted in the first round very often unless it's a really special guy, right?
Well, that I mean, we have the game down the road in the show, but we'll just talk about it now with the Raiders. They did not pick up Josh Jacobs' fifth year option. So what do you do with this guy? Because let's be honest, Crosby's getting paid a ton. He has 10.5 sacks. No one else on the Raiders has more than 2 sacks. So Crosby's running the defense there. Now you have Devontae Adams. You have Derek Carr. What are you going to do with Josh Jacobs, who had over 300 all-purpose yards yesterday and won the game in overtime, Brad?
So I don't know this, and I should. And what an incredible individual effort, right? Like he was amazing in the game winner walk off, right, against what I think is a pretty good Seahawks team, right? So, and an emotional win for them
In Seattle. In Seattle.
Did you see Derek Carr felt like he was head down, and good for him. I like Derek Carr, and I'm glad that they won. Although I do like the Seahawks, but I'm glad
what are you
that
going to do
won.
with my point is what are you going to do with Jacobs?
I don't know.
You can't sign him for big money.
So you can't. My question is like I have to look into this. Like so they didn't offer him give him the 5th year option because he was a first round pick, right?
Right.
So they still can't, or can they still offer it to him?
I think he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year.
So this is his 4th year,
right.
And they didn't give it to him, so that is gone. That opportunity is gone. So you either have to extend him,
right,
or let him walk,
let him walk.
I don't know what you do. I would look into extending him, but he's gonna want number 1 running back money.
Is he worth it, Brad? Is he? I mean, if you're the Raiders, what are you doing?
I'm not doing it.
Okay.
I'm not doing it. For the reasons I just stated, I think you can find somebody else. I know that was special yesterday, and people are going to call me crazy, but I think you can find somebody else to run through that hole. I mean, on that last play, did he make like a mind-breaking move?
No, he ran up
just
the middle,
ran through a hole and straight.
But Brad, take away that, he still had over 200 yards.
I agree.
Well, I'll answer this, Brad. Then you could. I think the Raiders didn't get lucky. One of the things we're seeing now, and this is what I was afraid of with the quarterback for Seattle, is teams have now seen him 8, 9, 10 games on film where he's a starter. So they're starting to see Geno Smith's tendencies. He had 2 interceptions yesterday. They're starting to see what he can and cannot do, and they're taking it away from him. But to go to my point, no, Seattle's a good team. I don't think they got lucky. I think the Raiders are playing better. And like I said, you said it a couple of weeks ago. You said the Raiders are so weird because they have all the stars at certain positions. Their left tackle's really good. They have a stud wide receiver. They have a top 10 quarterback. They have a top 10 running back. And like I said, Crosby has 10.5 sacks. No one else has 2. So they're built very weird, Brad.
Yeah, they're sexy to look at, and I worry about their depth, right? Like we've talked about this. Like their roster 1 through 53 doesn't always seem to hold up through a 17 or what used to be a 16-game season. So, I mean, here you are with this running back issue. You paid Devontae Adams. You paid Crosby. I just don't know how they can – I would move on. I just think I think that I know he's an excellent running back and somebody else will take him, but I think you could probably draft a guy to. I mean, look at like the Brian Robinsons and the all the running backs that were doing well as rookies. I think you could draft a guy in like the 4th round to come in and be your running back and maybe couple him with a veteran, and you would be just fine.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Okay, speaking of great runners, for me, Jalen Hurts right now is the MVP of the league. I know people are leading towards Patrick Mahomes, but they're 10-1 in a very good NFC East division. This is a great picture right here. Love Hurts. Actually, it said on one of the things. So Brad, I'm thoroughly impressed with Philadelphia, the way they run the ball. Someone made a point, I forget who it was. They said, Jalen Hurts has every quarterback this year has had one bad game or a series in which they cost them the win. They said Jalen Hurts hasn't played one bad game. If he doesn't beat you with his arms, he's beating you with his feet. What they did on the ground yesterday was insane, but I'm not shocked. And this is why I think they're the favorite if they have home field advantage because their offensive line is so good. They have two running backs. Hurts had 100 yards rushing in the first quarter. But my question to you, I'm going to have an article that's out for Nuts and Bolts Sports today, and I'm basically saying it's time to start Jordan Love. And for no other reason, this is not an indictment on Aaron Rodgers. They need to see what this guy could do, right? There's a list of, by the way, the Packers could have drafted Jalen Hurts. They could have drafted Jonathan Taylor. I have a list in the article, I'm not going to get, it's a spoiler teaser here, of all the players they could have drafted after Jordan Love. When Jordan Love first came into the league and when I saw him last year, he looked scared. Last night, he's a 24-year-old man. He looked much better, Brad.
He did. I think that he will be just fine. I do, for them. And I think that's it for Green Bay. Listen, that was a good game last night. They showed more heart than I thought they would. They bounced back. They made it a game. In the end, obviously, they lose. The Eagles are just too much to handle, right?
Yeah.
In that comeback. He hurt himself in a way, Rodgers, that I think
that's not a quick heal.
No, it's not going to heal quickly. So he may be done for the season. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know why he would come back. They're out of contention. And here's my thing with Rodgers, and he's not like Brady. He's not going to come back and just be okay with being like the 10th best quarterback in the league and competing every year. Like, I just don't see him having that same kind of passion for the game. So I don't know. We'll see. This could be it. I don't know.
It could be it, but he's still under contract for 2 more years, and it's about $50 million. That's a lot to walk away from. If I'm the Packers, I sit down with Aaron and I say, take the rest of the year off. Don't come to practice. Go do what you got to do. Heal. Enjoy yourself. And you let Jordan Love become his team. Because let's be honest, if Aaron Rodgers is at practice, if Aaron Rodgers is on the sideline, every time Jordan Love makes a mistake, the camera, the announcers, they're all going to point to Aaron Rodgers. I say, Aaron, you're injured. Go heal. The rest of the season, Jordan Love, this is now your team. And the worst case scenario is a win-win for the Packers because if this guy can play, you have one of two options. You trade Aaron Rodgers like the Broncos did, or you trade Jordan Love and you get something for him because right now there's no value for Jordan Love.
Agreed. I thought Jordan Love looked excellent in the time that he was on the field. Now, it was, kind of desperation time, but he actually has really similar mannerisms to Rodgers, maybe just from watching him for 3 years, but I thought that was kind of strange that he looks very similar to him out on the field, But either way, I think Love is going to be good. I think that when you develop a quarterback like this that has some actual talent and let him sit behind a guy, I actually think it works. But teams just don't usually have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, listen, it worked for Patrick Mahomes. It worked for Tom Brady. It worked for Colin Kaepernick for a while when he was backing up Alex Smith. And let's be honest, Brett Favre was a scumbag. He's a scumbag in life, but he was a scumbag to Aaron Rodgers as his backup. Aaron Rodgers is not the type of leader that Jordan Love can go to and talk to him. Aaron Rodgers has said this numerous times. I don't reach out to anyone, but if they come to me, I'll talk to them. No, that's not a leader. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Fitzpatrick, Alex Smith, the list goes on and on about guys who are mentors for people. And even though they're battling for the job like Ryan Fitzpatrick with Tua, he showed him how to watch film. He showed him how to be a pro. That stuff goes a long way. Aaron Rodgers will not do that, so I think they should get Aaron Rodgers out of Dodge. All right, speaking of young quarterbacks playing well, Mike White comes on. Now, look, the Bears often this game was really a story of two quarterbacks, right? Yeah. What the Jets needed was just a game manager who can make throws. Mike White can obviously make throws. What the Bears need is a ton of weapons because it's all Justin Fields and no one else. But I said this when the Jets decided not to dress Zach Wilson. His career is over in New York. This has nothing to do with Mike White. Mike White, I think they play the Vikings. They're going to be fine because the Vikings' pass defense is just as bad. Mike White is the starter for the rest of the year. Zach Wilson is done in New York. Yeah, I agree. Packers have invested this. Yeah, they have. That's why I say he's a 2-year starter from here on in, Greg. But just your thoughts on how different the feel, how different. I mean, the players after the game, how much they love Mike White. It was a breath of fresh air.
Yes, it was. And good for Mike White. Just to play devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that tone in your voice, Mike. Do you think Zach Wilson could have done what he did yesterday against the Bears defense?
I think there's two things happening with Zach Wilson. I think he's overthinking. So, no, I don't think he could. Because I think Zach Wilson has gotten to the point where he feels he has to prove himself now. So, he would not do what Robert Saleh said. Mike White made the easy plays look easy. And that's what Zach Wilson wasn't doing. When you have a quarterback who has happy feet or a quarterback who's overthinking, you know this with Baker Mayfield. They'll throw it to somewhere, and like Sam Darnold said 2 years ago, I'm seeing ghosts. I think there was just too much thrown at Zach Wilson. It's not all his fault. I think any good coach could make a young quarterback great. We've seen Andy Reid do it. We've seen Sean McVay do it. I don't know if Zach Wilson's done altogether, but he will never start with the Jets again. I think the locker room is done with him, much like we'll get to in a minute with the Broncos and Russell Wilson. So I don't think he's done in the NFL, but I think Zach Wilson will never play. The Jets are going to make the playoffs with Mike White, and that's all. That's all Jet fans want.
Yeah, but they want. I mean, most of the season it's been Zach Wilson. So
but
you're going to say, they're going to make the playoffs with Mike White, but it's not about the quarterback for them. They're winning despite their quarterback either way.
Right, but now the quarterback is not a negative. It's not. You don't have to. One of the things Robert Saleh said, and he didn't say it like this, but basically he's like, you don't have to babysit Mike White when he's out there. He's a professional.
Everybody is piling on Zach Wilson right now, and
well, I've been doing it for 2 years, so join my club.
I know. I've been here for all of it. I understand. But he made a mistake, a wrong answer. I think that like midweek, this week, you know how they didn't announce the starter until like late in the week. I think they were like testing him probably, like to see how he reacted, right? And he probably reacted like a brat because that's kind of what he comes across as, right? And so they just went with Mike White. To say that he won't start again for the Jets, you really believe he will never start again? You think that they're going to take this high first round pick, and he started, 20 games maybe in his career, and that's it? Like a guy can't get better after 20 games?
Someone said, one of the representatives for the Jets says that it doesn't matter how much money or how much potential someone has. When you're this close to the playoffs, you got to start the best guy who's out there.
Right. I'm not saying this year. I'm saying ever.
I think if the fact that they didn't dress Zach Wilson is all you need to know. And here's
it felt like a discipline.
Yeah, but here's Zach Wilson with the hoodie on, not really celebrating, just sitting there nodding, not going over to guys. And listen to this, okay? He has 3 touchdowns, Mike White, in one game. Zach Wilson in 6 more games had 4 touchdowns. Now, I know the Bears defense is bad, but they were playing in a monsoon, and he hit his wide receivers. They had flow. They had a balance. Mike White was a solid pro yesterday in the lines of a Ryan Fitzpatrick, came in, did the job, and I think that as long as the Jets are in the playoffs contention, which they are, Mike White is the starter.
Yeah, I think he'll start the rest of the year, no doubt. But going into next year, I don't know. And you're right. It is a bad look. He is doing damage to his future by sitting on the sideline in a hoodie and sulking and not, showing that he's bigger than that and, getting up and clapping and being part of his team regardless of whatever position you are, right? Like he's acting like a little kid. He needs to mature. I don't think he's. Going into next season, you don't think there's any chance they roll with him again?
I'm going to say this: if the Jets make the playoffs and they don't play the Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs, they could beat anyone in that first round with that defense. So if you win a first round game and with that defense, and you get your running back, you build the offensive line. I'm not saying Mike. I think they go after Jimmy G. To be honest with you, I think they're done with Zach Wilson. I'm not saying Mike White is the starter in the future. I think they go after Jimmy G.
All right, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna do Nostradamus here. You can book it right now. They will not win a first round playoff game.
Okay.
Book it.
All right.
And A and B, I think he'll start another game in New York.
All right, we'll see. All right, let's move to this game.
We'll see. I disagree.
No, I just listen. People always say, "Oh, Monty, why do you bring it up? Why do you bring it up?" I was like, it's not that I hate it's the Jets. 9 times out of 10, they draft the wrong guy. When they drafted Zach Wilson, you know this. I don't want to repeat myself. I said this is a terrible pick. I wanted, believe it or not, you could say I thought Trey Lance would be a good starter 2 or 3 years down. I knew they weren't going to get Trevor Lawrence. I wanted the guy from Chicago. I wanted Justin Fields. I was praying that they get Justin Fields, and they did it. So let's move to this game, which Brad,
Doug Peterson going for the 2-point conversion and the win. This game was so boring. These two teams have scored 31 points in the fourth quarter. Let's see what sort of creative play he runs here to try to win it and beat them. Just a straight drop back. He's got him. Touchdown. Touchdown, Jacksonville. Oh, my goodness.
Brad, that game was so boring to the fourth quarter, and we've talked about this since about week 2. What is going on with the Ravens that they just play to their competition and they keep blowing fourth quarter leads?
Yeah, it's pretty bad actually. Their offense is something. I mean, look at last week, right? What was it, 3-3 late into the game? Their offense is struggling to do anything. Fantastic job by Jacksonville. Love it. I was elated to see the Ratbirds go down here. And this one, they play a cakewalk schedule the rest of the season. They play nobody the rest of the way except for, I think, week 18 against the Bengals. So, yeah, I mean, they're probably going to win the division, I think, just because their schedule. But, I mean, they just
Brad, they're not good. They're not good. I'm sorry, they're not good.
They play to the level of their opponent. Like, so, I mean, I think when they play good teams, they get up for them, and then they play teams like this, and they screw around, and they've blown a bunch of games like this year. So, I mean, they should have 2 more wins on their. They blew the game against the Dolphins. They were up at the end.
They gave them 28 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so they are kind of going through this syndrome. The funniest thing about this is, right, like, so who else went for 2 and 1 yesterday?
Oh, I have it right here. Hold on.
Chargers.
Yeah, I have it right here. Let me put it up. Hold on 1 second.
Trying for 2. Got it! They've got the lead! It's the tight end, Jared Everett!
Okay, so analytics, right? Jacksonville goes for 2 when they could have tied the game. They win. Chargers go for 2. They win. Browns had the same opportunity, elected not to, went to overtime, and they won. So I don't really like to me, this is a little bit of an indictment on people being a slave to the analytics card that they're given, right? Like, go with some feel. So, like, all 3 situations are different. Stefanski normally, I believe, would go for 2 there, but he said in the press conference, he didn't like the play they had versus what they were doing on defense at that point for their 2-point conversion, right? And he was like, blame me, I constructed the play, whatever. But he also said, I kind of liked how our defense was playing at that point, and I thought we could take our best chances in overtime. And he was right. And they got 2 stops in overtime. So, like, coach has to have feel and understand the situation. Is it best to go for 2? Do you have a better chance to win in overtime? I don't think strictly numbers can tell you that. So you have to have some feel for the game. And some coaches are just now like, because they can defend it because the numbers say that's the best chance for them to win, they will go with that every time because they can point to the card and say, that's what the analytics say.
Like the rule of thumb I used to have as a coach, for example, when I coached basketball, we would play up tempo, and the rule of thumb is we have 7 guys who could score 15 or 20 points, so we want more shots because we were third in the country in scoring, and at halftime we'd be down 70 to 66 when the team only averaged 78 points a game, and we'd laugh at them because we'd blow them out in the second half. I agree with what Jacksonville did for the sake of you're 3-7 at that
Yeah.
point. You have nothing win, and I agree with what they did against the Ravens too, because the rule of thumb here is, do I trust my defense to stop Lamar Jackson? There's a lot of factors like you bring in, like Stefanski said, our defense is playing well. So if your defense is good, then maybe you want to play to overtime because you have belief in them. But with Jacksonville, when you're 3-7, go for it. I can't read Brandon Staley's mind because they had a stat and they were saying that in the last 2 minutes of games, Justin Herbert is like the top 5 of all time in completion percentage and average yards. And it's because he's calling the plays at the line of scrimmage. The play calling up until this point for the Chargers is always bad. So you bring up a great point. It's a feel. If I'm a coach and I believe in my defense, maybe I give my defense another one. If I have San Francisco's defense, yeah, I play for overtime because I'm assuming we're going to get a sack, we're going to get a turnover, but it's not always based on numbers. That's a great point.
Yeah, I agree. And, the interesting, I guess I jumped the gun on this game as is the Chargers game. We'll get to that and we'll talk about it, I guess. But, yeah, I totally agree that it was the right move for Jacksonville here. Yeah, 100%. And to go for the win, right?
Yeah.
And I get that totally. I guess
By
my
the way,
point
Brad,
is,
not to interrupt you, but how much, and you know this from your brother coaching, from you coming from a coaching family, how much does going for the 2-point conversion and getting it do for your team's confidence, your quarterback, the team believing in the coach, like, hey, he believes in us?
Yeah, 100%. It's you're putting your belief in your offense and your quarterback and saying, I know you guys can go win it right now. And a lot of time that's a momentum thing too, like so for them it felt like a momentum thing, right? That you come back, you tie the game, you're gonna go for the win, and a lot of times, and a lot of times that works out. It's kind of weird, like these trends change. So like in basketball, as you would know, Monty, like people will say, if you're on the road, whatever, you take the 3 for the win. If at home, you shoot the 2 for the tie.
100%.
It's an old school saying, right?
Yeah.
Like totally. And I don't believe in that necessarily either. I'm just saying like that, those sayings and like NFL belief is like the same kind of thing here, right? Like if you're the home team, play for overtime. If you're the road team, go for the win. But you got to throw all that stuff out the window. Only person that knows the situation you're in. Now make an educated decision with the analytics. I'm not saying disregard them.
Right.
I'm saying take them into account, but also you're the only person that knows what play you're going to call against what defense. You've talked to all the coaches on your team. You have a feel for the game. You know your quarterback. Nobody else in the world is better suited to make that decision with you. Go with your gut. Your gut is going to tell you what is going to tell you what is right in those situations.
And I've seen coaches who fail and they say, well, the analytics, which is you're right, it's like their way out. I don't like that. Okay, let's move on. My boy, former New York Jets started.
Oh, boy.
I got this for you, Brad. I got this for you.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know if you saw the altercation. They downplayed it, but the defender came off the field. He's yelling. Russell Wilson said something to him, and he said something to him. People are getting sick of this guy's act.
Yeah, it's about time. So it's just crazy. More stuff is coming about. We talked about this last time. I watched an additional video on him, checking to calls that he's losing his damn mind. He's checking the calls that he used with the Seahawks.
Yes.
And his wide receivers are looking at him like what the hell is he talking about? You know, they have no idea. Mid game, right? And like this came from like a real source that he was doing this, and that like they broke it down. He came off the field. The next time he went on the field, he had the wristband on with the right checks. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Well, I don't know if you know
his
this,
mind.
but Pete Carroll, he would never wear wristbands. He didn't like to wear them with Pete Carroll. And one of the things Pete Carroll said, why is Geno playing so well? He goes, well, he has his wristband so he doesn't get like a brain freeze when he's out there. And that's something that we haven't used in years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And something beyond him being a complete and utter ass to his teammates, right? Like who can't, now we're hearing like, you know, we talked a little bit about this last week. You can't even contact the guy. You have to go through team 3, his assistants, if you're his teammate. I mean, the gall of a guy, right? Like, how can you get behind somebody like that, right? This guy like thinks he's a character in a movie or something. It's absurd. He is acting. He is literally. This is my belief. He is acting and saying things like for his entire career. Like when you hear him saying, you know, the line from Friday Night Lights when he's mic'd up back in Seattle, like. Whatever.
Yeah, he thinks
full hearts, bright eyes, can't lose.
He's on a reality TV show.
He thinks like he can just say and act exactly how he thinks a quarterback in the NFL should act. He's playing a part, right? But meanwhile, on the sideline, he is a complete douchebag and asshole to everybody around him. And now people are seeing through it finally, and it's hysterical. And also, at coinciding with all of his chicane, like total douchebaggery, is that he can't play anymore.
No,
like he's lost a step. He doesn't. He used to throw a good deep ball. He doesn't anymore. He makes terrible decisions. They invested all this money in him. It's hysterical. It's
Brad, what I
hysterical.
don't like is I don't want my quarterback being over emotional. But for God's sakes, when you're getting your ass kicked every week, and stop saying I'm enjoying this. You know, I'm enjoying it because
Oh.
you know this is a chance for us to go out and be great next week. Every week's a great opportunity. No, you suck. Your team sucks.
Yeah.
Your coach sucks. Show some damn emotion. I should not be more angry that the Broncos are getting their ass kicked every week than Russell Wilson.
It's hysterical to me at this point. Like he is a cartoon character. Like literally, he is a cartoon character. He is not a real human.
And not a good one. Like Bob's
no.
Burgers.
Yeah,
not
like
American Dad.
he's too much, man. Like I don't know what. How did this get covered up all those years? Is the thing that just boggles my mind.
How did Antonio Brown all the stuff get covered up in Pittsburgh? When
It's
you have good
unbelievable.
leadership, they cover things up. And but it just listen, Greg, for those who don't know, quarterbacks wear a red jersey in practice, and you're not allowed to hit them. I wouldn't be
should.
surprised if someone just lays them out.
They should.
Yeah,
They should.
Put a Geno Smith on him, break his jaw like the Jets did a linebacker for Geno Smith. Brad, so it was a good day for you. Your Browns won, the
Yeah.
Ravens lost. Russell gets yelled at by a defensive player. It had to
Yep.
be a good day for you yesterday.
Yeah, it was good. I was happy. You know,
Did you win
all
your
around.
fantasy football?
I think it depends on tonight.
Okay. All right, so you're in that as well. Good for you.
Yeah.
All right.
So, DFS daily DraftKings was good. Good day. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you won $200, right? A couple
That
weeks
was
ago?
that was last week. I think Wednesday NBA slate.
Very nice. Very nice. I had Derrick Henry, he fumbled. I had another guy who fumbled. So instead of winning like $600, I won 14 because I lost by like 12 points, and that would have gave it to me. Isn't it crazy how 2 or 3 points can cost you $100?
It's happened to me a million times. Like not even $100, like thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
like
no, it's
in the show when they do the showdown, like in the NBA. Like I play most NBA, right? Like I think it's probably the easier one to play. It's more predictable, right? And there's statistics to go on and stuff. And it keeps you engaged in the league, which is a
Right.
hard league to stay in for the whole drag of the NBA season, right? To follow all the teams and know the personnel and stuff. But it keeps you engaged in all that and keeps you aware of who's playing well and not, along with the fact that I've had some success with it. But when they get to the showdown slates where it's like for the difference between first and like 10th is like 0.75.
Yeah.
So like, where it's just one game, and the difference is like $10,000 to the
No, it's
guy that
insane.
has
It's insane.
7.75 higher than the guy in 10th place who gets like $100.
I did the NBA, and I think one guy won like $8,000, and he had like 103 points, and I had like 101.5, and I won like $60. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how does it because it's all point? It's crazy. All right, let's move on to the Chargers. We played that video again. For those of you who don't know, the Chargers and Arizona Cardinals had a phenomenal game. Let's play this one more time.
Trying for two. Got it. They've got the lead. It's the tight end, Jared Everett.
I like that little dance there that he did. After this game, I said this when Kyler Murray told Cliff Kingsbury to calm the F down as he's walking towards the sideline in a national TV game. I think it was Sunday night or Thursday night. I said, these guys will not be here. Either Kyler's gone or Cliff is gone. Here's the problem now. Kyler comes out and he said, schematically, we're effing mess in the press conference, calling out his coach, saying that the coach is not putting us in the best position to win. This stemmed from the management and the coaches saying that Kyler doesn't watch film. So it leaked out about his he's got to watch film. They later took it out to appease Kyler because he was embarrassed. Brad, this is a disaster. When your quarterback and coach have a disconnect, it's a quick solution. One of them's going to be gone. Who will be there next year? Will Kyler get traded, or are they keeping Cliff?
I believe Cliff is done.
Okay.
I think that's what they're going to do.
Right.
Personally, I don't believe in either of them. I would get rid of both of them.
Now,
If
I will say
that's
this.
my personal opinion. I don't think Cliff can coach in the NFL, and I
Can't
don't
coach in
think
college either.
Right. and I
He was 19-35, I think, in the Big 12 with
Right.
Patrick Mahomes.
Right. It's absurd how he got this job.
Because he's good looking. That's how he got the job. He's good looking. He looks like a supermodel.
And I don't. If I was an NFL owner or GM, I would not want Kyler Murray to be my quarterback. So, if I were running the Cardinals, I would, unfortunately, for my fans, say we goofed, and it's back to the drawing board on both the quarterback and the head coach.
This is exactly why Cliff Kingsbury got the job. He walks into that room and his eyes just make you melt. He's universally attractive like Jimmy G. That's why he got the job. But Brad, now can I say this? Sean Payton has been breaking down films. He goes on Colin's show. He goes on so many shows. He wants to coach next year. So if the Chargers don't make the playoffs and Arizona is not going to make the playoffs and both of those coaches get fired, Sean Payton, where are you going? I'm taking the Chargers, right?
The Chargers, 10 every day and twice on Sunday. Yeah, for sure. No, there's no question. You take the Chargers job. Herbert is a better quarterback, an exceptional, and has so many better weapons. I like Everett too, who caught that 2-point conversion.
Yeah,
He's
I have
a
him on my
nice
fantasy.
tight
I do like
end.
him. Yeah, I do like him.
Gerald Everett. He's been around for a while. I think he's a vet, but he's athletic, physical tight end that can catch the ball, and he's athletic enough to push the ball down the field. So I like what they needed this one badly. The Chargers did.
And Keenan Allen being healthy helps them tremendously.
But they got it at the right time. They had to have it, and they got it. And I think that this will springboard them forward, or it should.
It should.
For them. So.
By the way, this weekend's games in the NFL is the best weekend coming up. There's so many compelling matchups.
Yes.
All right, Brad, your boy. I know you love this guy. Again, I'm just going to say this. Marcus Mariota threw an interception at the end of the game. The
Yes.
ball got tipped. But here's what I don't understand. The entire Atlanta Falcons coaching staff wants to run the ball 75 times a game. You have 2 timeouts left. Why the hell are you throwing the ball there when you've been running all over them and you've been pushing the ball down the field using the run? It's what they do. Arthur Smith, terrible play call there. Mariota didn't do any. I mean, the ball got deflected. But let's focus on Washington right now. They've won 6 out of 7. They're going to make the playoffs. They're getting Chase Young back. Uh, they play the Giants this weekend. I like this team, Brad.
I like this team a lot. They have some edge to them. They have a competitive. How do you want to put it? They're a chippy team, right?
Yeah.
Like they play through the whistle. They play physical on both sides of the ball. Their
They're a
defense
little
is
dirty. You could say it. They're a
good.
little dirty.
Yeah, they are, but that's okay. I mean, they're a little dirty. I don't think they're egregiously dirty, but they are. Heineke's great. I think that it's a good story, and he's doing just enough, to get them over the hump. I like the Robinson story, the kid that got shot.
From Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I like all of the. It's a good story, and I think this defense can be really good.
Yeah.
With Chase Young back, they're already good with Sweat and these guys, but I mean they can be really good and really get after a team that can get after the quarterback with the amount of talent they have on their defensive line. Is scary. Is a scary team to face in the postseason
Because they can
I
get
don't
to the
think anybody
quarterback.
wants to. Yeah.
They can get to the quarterback with four guys. And one of the things, I know this will never happen, and it's never happened before. But if we got the Washington Commanders and the Tennessee Titans in a Super Bowl, the score would be -7 to -6 because
Agreed.
Ron Rivera and Mike Vrabel, that's how they coach. They're a little chippy. They play through the whistle. They want to impose their physicality. Speaking of physicality, for the first time since 2001, I think, the New Orleans Saints got shut out 13-0. Jimmy G's doing what he's doing. 7-4 49ers. This 49er team continues to get injured every week, but Brad, they are scary when their defense is zoned in.
Yeah, I think you are going to disagree with me, but I think they are the best team in the NFC right now.
Yeah, I think they are the best team. My only concern is Jimmy G in a big spot. That's my only concern. But
I get that.
on the flip side, you could say that about, hey, is Jalen. One thing I loved about Jalen Hurts is he said when they were 8-0 or 7-0, they asked him, are you super? He goes, we have a ton to improve on. He goes, I played on a college team that went undefeated and we didn't win a championship. So I know that it's not over until it's over. And the one thing I like about Philadelphia is that if they stay healthy, that offensive line can push anyone around. They are so physical. Although the recipe to beat them is do what Washington did, is have 4 guys rush the quarterback. So this way you have a spy, and Washington did that. So San Francisco can do that. So you're not concerned with Jimmy G at all.
He's playing good football right now. Listen, I'm always concerned because the other shoe can drop with him. I like Jimmy G a lot, and he is playing really well right now. But he goes through these phases like this. We've seen it through his entire career, right? Like he'll play really, really well, and then all of a sudden, his play falls off in certain circumstances. So yeah, of course, I'm worried that it could be there. I just think right now. They look like the best team in the NFC, and with the Eagles right there and the Cowboys right there. I think all 3 teams are right there, but I would give them a slight edge.
And I will say this regarding Jimmy G, I don't think he's ever had this much offensive talent, Brad.
Sure, no way. And Christian McCaffrey, I mean, putting him on that team is like just changed everything.
So, Brad, the Chiefs won in a lackluster performance, but I brought this up yesterday on my show. The last time a Super Bowl winning team lost 10 or more games, which the Rams are going to do, was the 1999 Denver Broncos when their starting quarterback was Brian Griese and Bubby Brister, and Terrell Davis got hurt early. He was out for the year after Elway retired. We talked about the Rams winning a Super Bowl. Jalen Ramsey's shot. He can't guard anyone. He can't even guard Travis Kelce. No disrespect to Travis Kelce, but he's not a super speed burner. The Rams are just a mess, and I don't know how they fix it because they don't have a lot of draft picks.
Yeah, I don't know how, there's some rumblings about McVay sticking around, right? Like, so, the whole F the picks all in is exactly what happened, right? Like, I didn't think it would fall off this quickly, but it has. They went all in. They got what they went for, and now it's like nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
And so, hey, they got the Super Bowl, but I don't see them being very good. If I was Aaron Donald, I would want the hell out of there. Of course, I know he's on the verge of maybe retiring at some point. So, like, these guys have other interests off the field, some of these guys. So, like, I think McVay may be out of there. Like,
Maybe he goes to the Chargers. Doesn't have to leave. Doesn't have to leave his family. He could coach the Chargers. He could step down. Who knows? I mean, they play in the same building.
Yeah, maybe so. I think he would probably take a year, and I don't think the Chargers want to wait on that. I think Peyton and the Chargers are just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, me too.
I just don't see how, and he will be all. I mean, you want to talk about Justin Herbert all of a sudden like shooting up to people actually seeing that he is maybe the best quarterback in the league, like happening under Sean Payton. That will happen. Like he will totally put him in a position to make all the throws and all of the things that he does well.
It would be scary.
It would be scary. It would be scary.
By the way, Brad, before we break into tonight's game, I just want to put this up one more time. What is he thinking in this picture, Brad?
What is he doing? What is he doing with his hands?
He's a strange cat, man.
He looks like a little kid, doesn't he?
He looks like he just woke up from a nap.
He's like he's got a pouting face.
Yeah.
And his hands are down.
Wow.
That's a weird thing.
All right, Brad. So I won all 3 of my games. You took the Patriots to upset the Vikings. So I believe we are tied right now, Brad. So let's get to it. Steelers at the Colts. I know you're not taking the Steelers.
I'm picking the Colts to win tonight.
Jonathan Taylor against this Pittsburgh defense over 100 yards, yes or no?
No.
I think Jonathan Taylor will rush for 100 yards, and I also have the Colts winning. 8-3 Bills Thursday night at the 6-5 Patriots. Brad, are you still buying what the Bills are selling?
Listen, something's wrong with Josh Allen right now. I saw it against the Browns, and I visibly thought that you could tell that it wasn't the same Allen we saw earlier in the year. So I don't know if he's dinged or what's going on there. He's got the elbow thing, right? So
and listen, he can't try to truck over every linebacker, slide once in a while, dude.
Agreed. But yeah, the elbow thing is affecting him, I think. Now he's still throwing balls into tight windows when he needs to and stuff. He's a tough dude. So I think he'll get right at some point. It's hard to get right on an injury when you're playing every week. I feel like they should sit him down for a week or two. But I guess they probably don't have that luxury anymore, do they?
They don't now with the Dolphins winning yesterday, with the Jets winning. But Brad, so you have the Bills beating the Patriots in New England.
I do. I think they will win. Find a way to win. I'm
going to go with the Bills too.
Yeah.
So it looks like we'll be tied. So Brad, let me ask you this question: did you watch the Detroit Lions debacle at the end of the game on Thanksgiving?
I did, and I laughed.
So first of all, he's minus 50. The Detroit Lions are minus 55 in points, which coming into the third quarter, which means he makes no adjustments at halftime. None.
Yep.
It's 3rd and 1. You're running the ball all over them. You have a top 3 offensive line. You have 2 stud running backs in Swift and Williams, and he decides to throw a 30-yard pass play down the sideline. It wasn't even close. They give Josh Allen the ball back, and then Josh Allen comes in and wins it. People say, "Oh, I love Dan Campbell because they play so hard." They're losing because of Dan Campbell's in-games decisions and his halftime adjustments, Brad. How are we the only ones who see this?
I don't know. And like, I heard it here in Cleveland this week, people saying before the game, right, obviously on Sunday, the Browns are quitting on games, and look at the Detroit Lions. They're still playing hard for their coach. That's an indictment on Stefanski, and I'm like sitting here like, oh my god, right? And but you're right. I mean, I guess they're playing hard. I don't. It's you can look at tape on some of these games. I think sometimes teams just play bad, and when they're not good, it's something that fan bases say. Now, I've seen guys on like the Browns quit on plays, and at the end of games, like in tape review, and been like, "Dang, man, that sucks." Like, so there's a problem there, and I blame Joe Woods. But either way. He doesn't. I don't care how hard they play for him or whatever. He is committing coaching malpractice every week. He is he's shooting them in the foot from the sideline. He's not giving them the best chance to win. He makes all of his calls with emotion, too much emotion. And the emotion rules every evaluation and decision he makes, and that's why you get this crazy stuff happening.
And again, I'm tired of hearing him in the press conference. I love these guys, and I'll go to war with. You're not going to war. This isn't. You don't need to be. What's the term is? I'll be in the bunker with these guys. They know I have their back. We're not fighting a war, dude. It's a football game.
Give me someone
like Bill Belichick or an Andy Reid. You think Andy Reid or Bill Belichick would get into a fight with anyone? No, but schematically, they're geniuses. Look at what Andy Reid is doing with Travis Kelce minus Tyreek Hill. The guy's open by 10 yards every time.
And you can inspire and lead your team without making it the end all be all, right? Like I would die for you. I would go to war. No, you're not playing. You're in a football game. So what I need you to do, coach, instead of crying after games and doing all the crazy, shenanigans and the shooting hype videos every time you get a microphone in front of you about your team that has won like 4 games or whatever they've won. So instead of doing all that on 3rd and 1, run the best play to give us a chance to win the game. That's what I need from you, coach. I don't need you to jump in front of a car for me. I need you to make the right call on 3rd and 1.
No, Brad, I mean, you summed it up perfectly as we see him here. One of the things as a former coach, what I would do is I was an absolute bastard in workouts and in practice. We're running, we're hitting. I worked out with them. We lifted. You can ask Jared, who's been on my show. It's the middle of the summer. We're running hills. And then the day before the game, we're all laughs. We're going to blow this team out because I know we made practices so hard that the game was easy. I think this guy makes practices hard because he wants that, meathead mentality. And the games are hard too because, like you said, it's 3rd and 1. He throws a 40-yard pass play instead of doing the simple play.
Yeah, and it's just, and it's like, okay, that specific instance, sure, guys have taken shots on like that before, but it's a gutsy decision, and when you're in that position as the Lions, you're trying to win. That would have been their 3rd win in a row, right? I mean, come on, man. What are you doing? That's not the time or place.
And do you want to give Josh Allen time? We saw Patrick Mahomes, what he did with and forget about believing in your defense. Last year, the number 1 defense in the NFL was the Buffalo Bills. They couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes with 13 seconds left.
No, it doesn't matter. And so much of the NFL is handling situations and clock management and time and situational football. And if you're not good at it, you're going to lose.
Exactly. Someone... Bill Carroll we were doing what's that called, that little thing, a chat room on Twitter, I forget what it's called, but we were doing that and he brought up the
Spaces.
Spaces. He brought up a great point about the reason why Travis Kelce has always been good is because he's an athlete. He's better, he's more athletic than people think, but he was a quarterback for years. So he understands mismatches. He understands reads. So he'll look at Mahomes. They'll give each other a wink, and they're both on the same page because he played quarterback for years.
Their connection is ridiculous. 4. That would have been their 4th win in a row.
Yeah.
How many wins do they have total?
I think they're 4-7.
Yeah, they're done.
They were done before the season. Let's be honest.
Yeah, let's be real.
Well, they are. Yeah, they're 4-7. By the way, you come from a family of coaches. Does your family like Dan Campbell? Or do they think he's a fraud too?
I don't think, my dad is kind of old school,
Right.
so he watches the NFL, but he doesn't follow the NFL like he does. He likes college football, right? Like it's,
Right.
how certain people just they don't like the money being involved and all that
Correct.
comes with
Yep.
it. They like the purity of the sport. So he's a big college football guy, and so I don't really know. He has never really commented on Dan Campbell. My brother thinks he's a goof, for sure. Yeah,
We all do.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who coached, I was the biggest rah rah guy behind closed doors, and during practice, I was an absolute bastard. Like
Yeah.
we're running, we're hitting, tape up, we're going at it. 2 hours of just pure hell, and I would tell them, once the game comes, games are fun, practices are hard, and guys love to practice. Guys love to because we would chart everything. For example, we're shooting threes. Okay, yesterday you made 7 from this spot. You made 6. What do we do today? And they see the progress. They're benching 225. In 2 months, they're benching 250. They're squatting 250. Then they're squatting 315. So they saw the progress, and I would tell them, don't worry about day one. Let's just keep the progress. But I'm all for building up players. But what you said, Dan Campbell, like, yeah, I love my guys, and I'll be in a foxhole with them. No one gives a shit, dude. Nobody
Yeah.
cares. Stop with that. This isn't
It's
college.
just a roller coaster, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like guys do that, and you can be rah rah, but it's this, right? It's this that you can't, especially. I don't think football teams, any sport really, baseball, you would never find a manager like that.
Pete Carroll's like that, but Pete Carroll is also schematically a very good defensive-minded coach. They haven't been that good defensively, and you see what Pete Carroll has done with Russell Wilson and now with Geno Smith. So when it comes to X's and O's, Pete Carroll knows what he's doing. Other than that bad call against the Patriots on 3rd and 1 when they lost the Super Bowl.
It will haunt him forever. Yeah. Pete Carroll is energetic,
Right.
but he's not like Dan Campbell. You know what I mean?
No,
like
not at
he's
all.
a gym rat, but and he's energetic and he's all about his players, which is perfectly fine, and I'm totally behind that. But like the emotional roller coaster of crying to and I love yous and I'm gonna die for you and
It's
we're all
dysfunctional. It's
it's
dysfunctional on every level.
dysfunctional, and you can't maintain that level of that. You can't stay that high and go up and down like that. It's just is going to create wear and tear on a team, right? That's why guys need to be even killed sometimes.
Plus, when you're that way, when stuff goes bad, rah-rahing is not going to get us back. Tell me what we need to do defensively
Yeah.
to take away the best wide receiver at halftime, which clearly he hasn't done because they're minus 55 in the third quarter. So back to your point, like, I don't need you to be that way, coach. I need you to put me in the best position to win. Okay, Brad, you put me in the best position to win by coming on the show. Amarie called out. She has a sinus infection. She's sick. So thank you for making the time, doing a great job.
Of course.
What's on deck for you coming up?
More writing this week. Podcast at All Eyes on Cleveland. Follow me at Ward on Sports and at All Eyes on Cle is where the podcast is on Twitter. We'll be pumping those out this week as we prepare for the return of Deshaun Watson. I write at the OBR at theobr.com. Well, it's theobr.com, not at theobr.com, but theobr.com. I do a things I think I know about the Browns once a week, big game spotlight, and the things I think I know about the Browns is doing really well, and people like that a lot. So it's I enjoy doing that and being able to get my a different take on things. You know what I mean? A different view on things that go through my crazy mind.
Now, Brad, when the season's over, will you be contributing with some Cavalier articles?
Probably not. You know what? I would love to talk Cavs, and I will always come on here and talk Cavs. We're going to do a Cavs game together, and I can't wait for that. But the amount of time that I do with my day job, and then with the OBR writing. They have forums that we have to go on, and there's insiders. They pay VIP, so you'd go on in the forums and answer VIP questions and insider questions.
Brad, it's nonstop. I've written
Yeah.
18. I've written 18 articles this month already. I've done I've done 9 shows this month, and I've posted I think 100 TikTok videos. So
Yeah.
it consumes my life. It's nonstop.
Yeah, and then the podcast on top of that,
Yep.
right? So, and then constantly running down guests and gathering information and everything. It's just a constant. When I'm not working during the day, it's this all the time in the evening. So, I don't really have time to do another sport at this point.
No, I get it. And listen, I lived in Westlake. I worked in Elyria when I was out there, and I know that the Browns fans can talk, and Ohio fans can talk Ohio State football and Browns a lot like St. Louis can talk the Cardinals 365 days a year. There's never a downtime.
No, yeah, Browns is every day 365. Off-season coverage is just as big. Draft will be right after the last draft coverage fires up the day after the last game. So,
Brad, is your dad an Ohio State guy or no? Was he happy Michigan?
No. I mean, he doesn't really. So he actually he went to Mount Union.
Oh, great Division III school. Won national championship like 10 of the last 14 years.
Yeah, and he actually knows Larry Karras, longtime head coach there, who actually, and they're good friends and stuff like that. So he is a fan of college football. He always roots for the good guy, the guys he likes. He's not, like certain guys he dislikes. Usually, assholes, and then he likes the class act guys that. The clean cut guys, and he's very old school that way. But yeah, I mean, he'll. I don't know. He doesn't really root for Ohio State hardcore because as an Ohio State, like I pull for Ohio State, but I don't live and die with them. To be honest, and this is probably gonna keep this kind of quiet here between me and you, and but the Ohio State fans can be rather obnoxious.
Yes, they can. No, I agree with that, and I will say this: it was once I knew what Urban Meyer did at Florida and all the stuff he covered up. It was hard for me to. I loved Urban Meyer when he was at Florida. I loved Tim Tebow, but once I realized how he ran that city and the crimes that were committed, which happens in every small town college. But Urban Meyer is just hard to root for. And I will say this, and then we'll let you go. I don't know how people are calling for Ryan Day's job. The guy wins 11 games every year. So he lost to a good Michigan team 2 years in a row. How are you going to fire a guy who wins 11 games a year?
They won't yet, but if he loses again,
he's in big trouble. By the way,
yeah.
Next year's games at Michigan. Michigan's bringing their quarterback back. Yep. So Michigan, this was supposed to be rebuilding for them.
Yep.
So
yep. They're in trouble.
But that's how the series goes, right? You Ohio State would win 5-6 in a row. Michigan would win 4-5 in a row.
Yep. Coop could never beat Michigan, and then and then Tressel dominated Michigan, and then so did Urban Meyer, and then now they dominated for 10 years there. So so
nice run.
But either way, 2 years in a row, huge losses for Day. I mean, it's the only blemish on his thing. Do you think they can still get in the playoff?
No, I do not. I think that if USC loses or TCU loses, I think that Alabama's better than Ohio State.
You're going to put a 2-loss Alabama team in?
Yes, I would. I'm in the minority.
I
think Alabama is way better than Ohio State. I think the two best teams right now are obviously Michigan and Georgia. And then if TCU wins, okay, they're in. If USC loses to Utah, which they could, and TCU, I think they play Kansas State, they may lose that game too. If they lose, I think Alabama gets in. I would put Alabama over Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State's that good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Alabama is probably a better team. I mean, playing in the SEC versus playing in the Big Ten right now is a total different thing. Like, I know that Big Ten honks want you to make you believe that it's a really difficult grind, and it's harder
The
than some.
Pac-12's better right this year. And I
Yeah, but
will
like
say
the
this.
SEC is a totally different
Yeah.
ball game. So I would tend to agree with you. I just think that there is some kind of bias always ends up for Ohio State on that committee.
Well, because they're a money-making machine. I
Yes.
mean, the Ohio State fans travel just as good as
Travel.
any SEC. But I will say this: watching Ohio State over the last few years reminds me of what Chip Kelly did to Oregon. Chip Kelly, his last two years at Oregon, he was a speed, wide receivers, dominant quarterback play, but he lost in the trenches to the Stanfords, to the Utahs, to guys who could bully them. The last 2 years, Michigan has bullied Ohio State, and they has become kind of like Chip Kelly's Oregon teams, where they have elite wide receivers. They want to throw the ball all over the field, but if you push them around, they don't have an answer.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation today about their recruiting. So like one of the best offensive line recruits in the country is from Northeast Ohio, and he just committed to Michigan. So like when Ohio kids are going to Michigan, people get alarmed, right?
That's a
And
bad sign.
right, yeah. So like remember Desmond Howard was from Ohio and went to Michigan and won the Heisman there and stuff like that. So like yeah. And so they that's alarming, but here's the crazy thing, right? Like Tressel found success and he played Tressel ball. He played conservative, beat you in the trenches, run the ball, great defense, right? Totally like old school, and won a national title that way, and then Urban did it with Cardell Jones, kind of luck boxed into that season, right? But they were just clicking at the right time.
They had so much talent on that team too. He was
so much talent on that team.
Quarterback, yeah.
Yeah, and then and they just dominated against other teams. And then since then, I feel like they haven't really had a team. I think they beat Clemson once in the semifinal, but other than that, they haven't really. Like, can they beat Alabama? Can they beat the best team from the SEC every year? Are they that good? Well, Urban used to bring in a ton of Florida recruits and recruits from Los Angeles and stuff like that. I don't know if Ryan Day is doing the same. So
yeah, and I know this from living there. Every kid, and again, the 5 best states for high school prospects, not in order: Florida, Texas, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Ohio. That's 6. Every kid, when I lived out in Ohio, their dream is to play for Ohio State. So when you see the best of the best in Ohio going to the rivalry, their rivals in Michigan, that's a terrible sign.
Terrible sign. Bad sign. And I guess this kid there was an article out about this kid, and I guess he said that the reason why, Monte, is that Ohio State did not engage him until too late in the process.
Listen, we said early on, right? You want to feel appreciated, right? This is what people want in their jobs. This is what people want in relationships. This is what people want. We played the video of Tua. His coach appreciates him. You will not believe how many athletes want to feel appreciated. Now, great athletes, elite athletes, don't surround themselves with yes men. They surround themselves with people who are going to challenge them. Magic Johnson said one of the hardest things he had to do was cut ties with the people who wanted to stay in the town he lived in, because he wanted bigger and better things, and he loved them, and but they weren't businessmen. One of the things I loved about LeBron James is all his friends from high school, they all had to go to college, they all had to take business courses, they've all gone on to run his business and be successful because they all grew with him. They all grew with him. So for this recruit right here, I know this as a coach who recruited, you got to make that kid feel special. And if you're a top 10 prospect and you're in Ohio, they should be all over you since your sophomore, junior year.
No question. No question. And it's it feels like audacity, right? Like to think that, hey, kid's from Ohio, he's
He's
gonna come
coming
to
here.
Ohio State
Yeah.
we'll contact him when we need to, right? Like that's not good.
One of the things, and then we'll let you go. One of the things that Chris Collins, who used to be the assistant coach at Duke when they won he was at Seton Hall, and I worked their camp. He said to me that every Connecticut, Syracuse, North Carolina, they have a list of 50 players, and that's low. Most Division One have 100. He goes, we have 10. He goes, and we're only taking 3 out of those 10, and the 7 we got to tell them. He told a bunch of players, don't come here. We already have enough people. Go somewhere else. And he was responsible for that. The Carlos Boozer, when they won the national champ with all those guys. And he said one of the things that we did is when we want you, it's like a guy who wants a girl. When you want them, you let them know, right?
Yeah. Yep.
If a girl wants a guy, he said they know unequivocally that we're recruiting them. He said,
Yep.
and we make them feel wanted from day one. But Duke back in the day had a list of 10 players, and they would only take 3, and they would tell the other 7 players on the list, "Hey, we don't. I'm sorry. We wish you well. We don't have room for you." And they made people feel wanted. He never thought that, oh, because this kid lives in North Carolina, he's coming to Duke.
Yeah.
And if
Exactly.
anything, you recruit those kids harder because you don't want them leaving the state.
Exactly. And another interesting thing that my brother, I was talking about with my brother in regards to college football at Thanksgiving, right? He was talking about the transfer portal, right? And how that has changed everything so much that like kids just go. He said there are like it's just a massive amount of kids all the time 24/7 entering the transfer portal because if it's this age of instant gratification, right? Like if you go somewhere and a lot of people will tell you, hey, you're going to play, a lot of coaches and teams will make you promises that they end up not keeping.
Right.
And if that happens, now kids have recourse, and nobody is willing to sit behind somebody and work hard to move to the next spot. They're just going to transfer to some place that they can play. And it is totally changing the landscape of college football. And he said it's incredibly frustrating.
I used to say this, and you could ask any one of my former players who's been on my show or on Twitter. I used to tell kids, I'm not going to tell you you're going to start, but if you lift with me, if you work out and you dedicate yourself 100%, you're going to play, and you're going to be a huge part of our success. We talk about Tyreek Hill going, to Miami and having success in Kansas City. You look at Spencer Rattler, who got run out of Oklahoma, just won 2 huge games in South Carolina. They beat Clemson this week. And you look at Caleb Williams, talk about the transfer portal, who was a starter in Oklahoma. He goes to USC with Lincoln Riley. He's probably going to win the Heisman. So there's a lot of good success stories. Travis Dye went from the starter in Oregon. He was a starter in USC before he, injured his leg. He's out for the season. So a lot of it works, but you're right, Brad. A lot of these kids, if they don't play right away, they're not sitting behind people. They're like, I'm out. Look at Kyler Murray, sat behind Baker Mayfield, won the Heisman, and now he's a better pro than Baker Mayfield. He didn't just leave.
Yep. But that's what he was saying, and even at the Division III level, he said he's got pages and pages of players that are out every year. So, and it's changing, because now you're not just recruiting, but it's the transfer portal too, and you have to find out how to construct a team that way. And you got guys that are going from bigger schools to smaller schools to try to play more. So it's changing the game a lot.
Yeah, no. When I started coaching college basketball, there were games, high school games on Tuesday and Friday night. So every Tuesday and Friday night we'd go out. We'd play Wednesday and Saturday. But then by the time I stopped, there were games every night. There were games on Christmas, and I'm like, I am not going recruiting on Christmas. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No way. And I would go out recruiting 6 nights a week at the end. It was just too much. And I can't even imagine with these transfer portals how much recruiting is going on and how many phone calls, emails, and the list must be double the size.
Yeah, and he does a good deal of travel for it too,
Yep.
because he spends and every school has connections in certain areas due to alumni
Right.
or
Players who
somebody
played
that
there.
was on that you coached that's on a staff someplace else in the high school level. So they go to certain places in California. He spends like a week out there. He comes back. They do the Southern Ohio trip. It's
No,
crazy. So yeah, I mean, you talk about exhausting off season, but interesting though. I thought about the transfer portal, and it makes sense with like the youth of today's. Everything is at the palm of your hand, right? Like,
Yeah.
so,
I mean, look at Bo
uh,
Nix. Bo Nix at Auburn said that it was too much pressure for me. Now he goes to Oregon, and he's probably going to get drafted. The
yeah,
guy had a phenomenal year, even though he has a hurt ankle. He may get invited to New York. He's not going to win the Heisman, but he just said, from the time I was born, I wanted to go play and win a national championship for Auburn. So every pass play, every run, I wanted to score a touchdown because I just wanted to win so badly. And now he goes to Oregon, transfers, which you never would have seen years ago, and he's a totally different player.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's a good thing obviously, it's a really good thing for a lot of people. Different, how many times do we see in the NFL we talk about just different new location, different scenery, different voice, and they're a totally different person and
Geno
player.
Smith.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time, right? So, like, at the college level, to have that ability, I think, is a good thing. But you're just seeing so much of it now where, like, hey, you don't want to play me? Cool, I'll go over
I'll go
here,
somewhere else. Last
Yeah.
question, Brad. Where does Odell Beckham Jr. end up? I say Kansas City.
I'm going to say Dallas
Dallas.
Cowboys. How
Okay.
about, did you follow the whole plane debacle?
Yeah. He got kicked off a plane.
Yeah, so here's what I think happened. Probably took some sleeping pills or anxiety pills,
Right.
got on the plane. They were on the tarmac for a while, fell asleep, and maybe took one too many or whatever, right? Because he's going to sleep through the flight. And some people have a lot of anxiety flying. It's not an uncommon thing, right? I'm
No.
not saying he did anything wrong by doing this. I'm just saying that's probably what happened. And then the person came to him and tried to wake him up and tell him to buckle a seatbelt, and he was in and out of half asleep. If you've ever taken one of those, some of them are pretty strong, and they knock you out. And he was probably seemed kind of out of it, and they were like, we have a male here who can't wake up and
Probably
or
thought he
won't
was high.
in and out of consciousness and won't buckle a seatbelt. He probably had no idea what was going on. I think it was probably a major overreaction by the person on the plane.
Well,
Personally,
and I will say this: Odell Beckham Jr. may be fiery on the sidelines, but I don't think he's ever been in trouble off the field.
no, he's he was
He
crazy.
was great. He was great in Cleveland, right?
Yeah, he was great in Cleveland, except he got really wasted at the LSU national championship. You remember that?
And he was giving out $100 bills to the LSU
Yeah,
players.
he was throwing money around, and he was he was taking the microphone from some lady and trying to do the band and everything. He was hammered, and it was funny, but it was also pretty obnoxious. But no, he's never been in real trouble.
All right, Brad. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for spending the extra minutes, and I do appreciate you picking up some of the games because Amarie was out, so I really appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, I'm not shy of talking more. So
I always appreciate the time, Brad. We'll see you down the road. Take care,
all right,
man.
brother. Have a good
All
night.
right, that was Brad Ward. Thank everyone for tuning in. Sorry about the chat room. Again, that's something that's going on with YouTube. We just have to figure it out. We will be back next Sunday. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. He does like to fight with nets. That is funny. Very funny, Andrew. All right, we'll see you next week. In the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.